perhaps the next time Cynthia tells me she's going to be out of town and asks if I'm willing to take a Monday, I'll read the gospel before I say yes to preaching on a particular Monday. This is not an easy passage, and I know that that's like a preacher's old saw, and I get it, and I'm not trying to get off the hook, but there are so many things to make us uncomfortable in this story as we hear it today. Right at the top, there is the enslaved person and the slave master, and that relationship with all of its evil and pain, and the centuries of history by which we receive these words that maybe meant something different then, but are painful now to hear. And add to that, there's Jesus saying, "Not in all of Israel have I heard such faith," which is also something I guess I wish Jesus hadn't said, because we've used that in really, really wicked ways as the church. And some of us would still hold on to some of that wickedness and the ways that it harms our Jewish brothers and sisters as the heirs of that Israelite faith. And we've got some more run-of-the-mill things that might still make us uncomfortable. The centurion seems to be using his money as power in order to get this favor that he needs. He may not even realize he's doing it. Maybe the people are just doing it on his behalf. But one of the reasons they say Jesus should help this guy is because he gave a lot of money. And that's uncomfortable too. And he's like a Roman centurion seeking a favor, a gift, a reward from the people whom the Romans are oppressing in that region. And that's icky. And then there's a miraculous healing in the middle of this story, which we also have a hard time with as modern people lots of times. What is going on with this man restored to health suddenly and quickly and without modern medical science and from far away even? All kinds of reasons that this passage is difficult to enter into. All kinds of reasons why we might not want to put ourselves in the shoes of any of the characters in this story that we meet today. In fact, the centurion himself seems ambivalent, a little bit uncomfortable with the role that he plays in the story. There's this dichotomy of the Jewish leaders who come to Jesus saying, "Oh, this guy is worthy." But then when the centurion sends his own friends, the message they deliver is the centurion saying, "I'm not worthy." The Greek scholar in my house says those are different words, but they've been translated to us the same way: worthy, not worthy. And so he seems to not be sure where he fits and what should he ask for and what can he have. He's first seeking this help and then changing his mind and sending other messengers to say, maybe not, maybe don't come. Maybe still help, but maybe don't come. He is likely among the God-fearers, which would have been Gentile people who were curious about the Israelite religion, who were maybe enthralled by the idea of monotheism, though that appealed to them on an emotional and intellectual and a spiritual level. They're intrigued by that, they're drawn to that, and they probably worshiped with the Jewish people where they could, with the Israelites, when in the spaces that were available to a Gentile to join in. This guy has given financial support to the synagogue, as it says, and he probably was following some of the Jewish laws, we think. Likely that's probably what that would have looked like for him, but he's not a convert. He's certainly stopped short of circumcision. He has certainly not given up, likely, the Roman state religion in order to hold his position as a centurion. He is trying maybe to have a little bit of both because he loves what he hears from the Israelites, but he's afraid of what he would lose if he went all in with them. So he holds himself back. And there was a place for that. He's not the only person navigating this way. That's why there's this title of God-fearer that exists, and he probably has that one. but he's unable to join in with them all the way without a loss of his status. There's a lot on the line for him, not just today with what's happening with the enslaved person in his house, but with what it means to have this curiosity about the Israelite faith and this investment in it. He maybe is both drawn to the Israelites and their story of the one God and repulsed by it at the same time, and trying to figure out how to hold those things in tension together. So maybe we do have good company in our discomfort with this story. Even the centurion in his own space feels uncomfortable. What am I asking for? What can I ask for? Putting aside some of what is uncomfortable about this, one thing that is clear about the centurion is he wants to use his power for a powerless one. A person who is too sick to seek their own healing, a person who had no status to send out messengers to ask for healing, a person who is constrained in their household and doesn't have the resources that the centurion has in order to seek this healing. The enslaved man in this story could not have sought the help that the centurion sought for him. And so in that sense, maybe we can find a little piece of holding on to with the centurion. We can hold on to that idea, that call that he has to seek, to use his resources to help another. It's mercenary, certainly. It's not fully selflessly given, but he is trying to heal this man, to relieve his suffering, and he's willing to use what he has to do that, including in ways that might have jeopardized his status, seeking out this Jewish teacher and asking that person for the help rather than going through what Romans channels might have been available to him is maybe not the easiest way for the centurion to seek it out. And through it all, our own discomfort with this, with what Jesus has to say, with the centurion's role, with the relationships at the heart of this story, God's grace pours out to the least powerful person, the least empowered one in this story. The sick, enslaved man is the recipient of God's grace and healing. It comes to him through these complicated channels, ones that make us uncomfortable, but in the end, he is restored to health. He has brought back to fullness of body, at least. Relationships are still messy and broken and complicated, but he is restored to health. His life is renewed. He was near death, and he is healthy again. And there is a message to all who are a part of this story, to the centurion, to the Jewish leaders, to the disciples who've witnessed this, to us listening to it all of these centuries later, that Christ and his healing cannot be contained by the social boundaries we put up. However uncomfortable they are, however invested we may be in protecting them, however mercenary our participation in them may be, God's grace and Christ's healing can't be held in by those things. It reminded me of the prayer that I'll offer when we get to the end of our prayers of the people that reminds us of the good things which we dare not or in our blindness cannot ask. The centurion seems to dare not to ask Christ to come into his house. And perhaps in his blindness, he can't even know to ask for a more just or equitable relationship with the enslaved man or with the Jewish people whom he has this complicated God-fearer role with. And we come to this chapel with our own things which we dare not ask for ourselves or on behalf of other people, and with some things to which we are blind. Things that are constraining and breaking relationships that we don't even know, that we cannot even name. And we bring those things to this chapel, and God's grace and Christ's healing cannot be constrained by those. Not our ignorance, not our blindness, not our lack of daring. It pours out beyond the boundaries we would put up. And so that's our invitation, I think, into this story. Who is on the outside and overlooked? who might need our intercession? Where is Christ's grace and healing flowing where we might not expect it or see it? What are those blindnesses that we need to put down in order to align our hearts more closely with Christ? How can we let down our guard, even when we're ambivalent, in order to welcome Christ into those broken places? Amen.